Hello, this is John with Theology Ed. I hope you're all doing really well today. So, we saw that Trump won the election. This is the 2024 election, of course. And Trump won. And, the polls before Trump were showing that he was down. And so it was a bit of a surprise victory, perhaps, that he won. But it wasn't necessarily a surprise when it comes to predictive programming. As it turns out, I think in Leave the World Behind, this was a part of the plan. And we are able to see how that works and what comes after it, perhaps, based on at least the predictive programming we have available to us in the film as well. And so I'm going to continue the analysis of Leave the World Behind. We have two parts before in the series, and this will be the third part. I've also touched on it quite a bit in some other videos that aren't, primarily about Leave the World Behind. But this is a very important film in predictive programming, partly because it's recent, but also because it was produced by the Obamas, right? This was produced by their production company. This was released, it was in select theaters in November, and it was released on December 8th, which is, of course, the anniversary of the date the U.S. declared war in World War II on December 8th, 1941. And so we go ahead and we find, again, I'll do a very, very fast review of some of the other stuff. We'll get into this part that's more related to this recent election. I know there are a lot of new people watching the channel after some of the more recent videos. Anyways, he wakes up, Clay does. His wife, Amanda, is already awake. He's sort of surprised. She has planned to take them on a vacation, right? They're going to go and get out of town and take a break because she hates people. And so they're going to head out. I'm not going to worry about that. Some of these slides are from the previous video. If you want to go take a look at that, you can. And they're going to head to down exit 76, as we'll see, to a White House. Now, the opening song is for Leave the World Behind is The Revenge. And there's some lyrics in it that are important. It's a strange set of lyrics for the film. We have, I'm really out for blood this time. Look, no really, woo. Heard they was sleeping again. Say it no more. This is a rude awakening, kicking the door back, and I'm badder than ever before. Don't get it mistaken. I'm ready for war. When I'm done at the scene, I won't leave anything. You won't even know who was involved. Heard they was missing me while I was gone. I smell a victory back up on top, and it's where I belong. So now they on my body, made it to the top. Ain't no way that they could stop me now. They're gonna say I joined the Illuminati. I got demons all around me. Tell me what they know about me, ha. All right, and so we're gonna get the idea of revolution uprising in the film as well. They head off to exit 76. The clock was at 7 and 6 as well, and the 76 on here, I should say, the 76 on the mug. And they're going to take exit 76 to Point Comfort, which is where the first black slaves were brought to the United States in 1619, landed at Point Comfort in what is today Hampton, Virginia, and aboard the English privateer ship White Lion. The ship, of course, that is in the film is the White Lion. So this is not coincidental. Also, when you listen to a radio station later, the station was an AM station at 1619, if I recall. A lot of, Easter eggs, if you want to call them that. Things, if you're paying attention, you'll find it, and it's pointing to this idea of slavery and the oppression that marks some of the history of the United States. Okay, well, they go and they take that exit to the house, and it's a big white house. And when they walk in the house, they have the time is 11:16 on a Donnie Darko clock. There's Donnie Darko, the film, the clock there, same type of clock. This is a Donnie Darko clock. Not all grandfather clocks have that style of face. This is an unhappy face. And at 11:16, that was November 2016, that was when who occupied the White House? They got voted in, at least, the Trumps. So Donald Trump was elected in November 2016. And that was his key to getting into the White House. Now, what we're going to see is this Donnie Darko clock is not just Donnie Darko, a clock symbolizing like bad news. It's also entering the unstable tangent universe. In Donnie Darko, when we saw the clock strike midnight on October 2nd, and Donnie leans in front of the clock, we get the eclipse symbolism, and then we get him being called out by Frank the Rabbit. He's in the tangent universe at that moment. Well, this is when the unstable tangent universe entered. When Trump was elected president, it's as if the world was, any moment now we could enter the apocalypse. It could be over. It's going to be the end. And if we don't exit the unstable tangent universe properly, when it collapses back on itself and goes back to the beginning point, we're going to see the end of the world. That was the idea. And so what we have here is the starting point of the unstable tangent universe. And, they go out, they go to the beach, they see some weird stuff start to happen. We saw some weird things like this happening. Remember the ship from Singapore that crashed into the bridge in Baltimore after the film was released, and in the meantime, right? These sort of weird things that raised questions about what's going on with, electronics, communications, whatever could have been the cause of that. But anyways, the White Lion goes there, and we see when they're back at home that night that they are greeted at the door by George Scott and his daughter Ruth. Now, interestingly, George Scott is the captain of a slave ship in 1730 that had a revolt. That the revolution was the people in the lower deck, the slaves, the people who've been captured to be slaves, revolted. There were 96 people in the lower deck. There's the 96 explanation of the 96 on her shoulder. And the captain is George Scott. Okay? And so he ran the ship. The ship was his. The house in this film, the White House, is representing a ship. Okay? It's like a gigantic slave ship, the White House in the United States. They're representing that way. And so in the upper deck, you have the white family with the waves, and they can see everything. And the lower deck is, looks, because of all the wood walls, wood ceilings, wood stairway, wood floor, everything is wood, looks like a lower deck of a ship. And that's deliberate, because this is the slave ship. This is George's ship, the captain. Okay, and this, I think, is representing the Obamas, and this is representing the Trumps. And the Trumps, for a time, had occupied the White House, which was actually George's, the Obamas, home. And they came to let him know that this is our house, and they're going to come back. And so they came back. And that night, when they'd been playing Jenga earlier, they had this emergency alert, and you see from 11/4, day before the election, 11/6, after the election, into December, things, channels, they keep going through. It's all, emergency broadcast system, warnings, and so on. And that time when they were playing that game was again at 11/16. This is coming back when the tangent universe collapses back on itself, the new election, this year's election, 2024 election, when we get a repeat of the 2016 election, where it's Trump versus a Democrat. This time we have Trump versus a Democrat. In both cases, a woman. Interestingly, I guess that's something to note. We had Trump versus Hillary, and now Trump versus Harris. And when they think, well, maybe it's going to turn out okay, well, the Jenga tower collapses. Okay? The Jenga tower collapses. That's what comes. Instead of like Donnie Darko, where Donnie dies to save the world, this time Donnie doesn't die. In fact, he comes back to the house, and that's what's going to lead to the destruction of the tower, the house, the world. Okay? So if we keep going, right, there's our Donnie Darko, the starting time. And we had the end time here at this 11/16 again. And then if you go and look at the starting time at the end of the film, when the girl who is called, said to be like Donnie Darko, okay, in the film, she goes to the bunker at, it's hard to see, but that clock is 11/16 as well. So the time to get back in is that next election, because after this election, after the November 2024 election, that's when things are supposed to become bad. Become worse. And I think it goes all the way to March, which is really when the film shows it getting worse, around the Pi eclipse, excuse me, on March 14th, 2025. It seems like that one is where things really take off everywhere I've seen. I mean, you see that, and I'll show that later in this film. And so here's our tangent universe. We have the primary universe, 2016. You enter the unstable tangent universe, the 1116, and it's going to collapse back on itself at the end when we go back in the 2024, November 2024, and there you have the collapsed tower. That's what comes with that, and that's where I made that shirt. You can still get that shirt, but the brace yourself re-entering primary universe, it was related to this 2024 election. Now, let me dig in here. This election, a lot of people are surprised by the election, right? It seems like everything's okay now. I mean, I've seen a lot of comments. Everyone's like, well, now that Trump's won, and he's back, and he means business this time. We're good. We're finally saving the country. We're all right. And we've got this impression that everything is okay. Now, I want you to look in the scene when they go downstairs into the lower deck, like the slaves who had been taken from their homeland into bondage and all that. They go down and they're flipping through the channels to see if there's anything on, and only the warning. And they get the 11-2, 11-3. These are the dates leading up to the election. It's 112, 113, sure, but it's 11-2, 11-3, and then we get 11-4. We need to get them out of here. And she said that. And he says, we're not going to do that by scaring them. Staying on 11-4. Then, while 11-4, they need to think everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay, isn't it? And you just get eerie music, and the answer is clearly no. What's going on? What are you thinking? And he's not going to tell her. And there's a very little more dialogue there. Than the camera pans up to the upper deck and then back down. And when it comes back down, the TV flips. The main TV on the main floor flips from the warning to cyber attack across the country. Power outages reported along East Coast metropolitan areas, and you get this hint of what's going on. And then it moves into the second part of the film, which is the curve, which was about the satellites going down. And we saw a lot of that, and it's a big joke. We also saw that the Trump representing family, the family that represents the Trumps, they don't care about the Latino immigrants and so on, right? Because here he is, this immigrant comes up, apparently, speaking Spanish to him, trying to communicate with him. He doesn't understand her, so he just drives off and leaves her, coldly behind, as if to, left to die. Okay, you get this symbolism going on again about, of the right versus left in all of this. Well, anyways, let me see. At the end of this season, or of this part, excuse me, that's when we get that noise, and we've covered this in the previous parts. Okay, we get the noise, which is somewhat part of the attack, and that gave us part 3. Gets us to part 3 of the film, where we see the shirts, obey NASA, and they're waiting for their dad to get back. He had gone out in the car, that's where he had that incident with the woman, the immigrant who he just left behind, and they're waiting for him to get back. There's a lot of confusion about what's going on, and they're speculating about what the cause of that sound could be. And is this what sitting ducks are? Why aren't we doing anything? Basically, we're sitting around waiting to be shot. How do you know we're safe? And so on. Okay. And talking about the planes that crashed. Let me get to what I want to do is I want to get to this part where he gets back. Here. Okay, Clay gets back finally. And he said, I didn't get far, then I heard the noise. I didn't see anyone. He lies about that because he doesn't care about her, but he actually is inwardly a little disturbed at what he did. He saw this huge drone, and he shows the paper that they got, and there's what that's what the paper is now translated. That's it. We ask you to pay immediate attention to what we say in this publication. We have the most dangerous and destructive explosives in history, and we leave this horrific fact to you to ponder and stress the validity of what is said. I just want to use this on your land and must take steps to stop the resistance and so on. I don't know exactly because I think his hands come a little bit. They are built for peaceful surrender, and it means death to America. But it was propaganda spread almost certainly in the film by the government itself, the U.S. government itself, here because there's some Korean or other language flyers in other parts of the country being dropped, and fits in with the strategy that the government was using, as explained later by G.H. Scott, about the undermining of the stability of the United States deliberately. Taking away communications and making people enemies against one another so that it sort of self-destructs. But here's what's interesting. Here's what comes. What happens now? The Trump family is going to leave the White House. When did that happen? That was 2020, the leaving of the White House. They go out of the White House and they're going to head off. And there's this little debate about, is this, he's trying to keep him around, I'm pretty sure, and make it right, how to get out. He says, you're not going to get anywhere. This is in everyone's best interest, she says. This is for the better, Ruth. For who? For us. I don't want to have to agree with that one, but she was right, and you really should have told me what you saw, and so on, about the airplane. And they're leaving. If we had traffic, we'll be able to talk to people. In fact, when they do hit quote-unquote traffic, it's just a bunch of self-driving cars where there are no people and there's no one to talk to. There's everything they're sort of putting hope in is failing them. And so things are falling apart while they're out of the house, okay? When they're out of the White House, it's falling apart. Here you get your little 9/11 upside down, or 11/6, the day after the election, whichever way you want to look at it. Here you have a 3/6/25, maybe pointing to March 2025 or June 2025. I'm not sure. Probably meaningless, but probably not meaningless, but I don't know what it means. It zooms in a bit. You get a little bit more information. You can take a look. But what happens is while they're looking around, these cars keep pulling in and crashing into them. And so they have to drive away. They have no way to get out. And we get to see what happened, what's been happening while they're out of the house. Well, the Trumps, metaphor, in the allegory, are out of the house. The country is being destroyed. So they have to go back to the house. Like, all right, going back to the house. They return to the house, and they get it back. And that's how we get back into the flood. Now, when we go back to the flood, or into the flood, this section, part 4 of the film, the flood is a story that the little Donnie Darko character, little Rose, has I called her Ruth before? I don't know. Ruth is the daughter of George. Rose is the daughter of Clay and Amanda. And so they're going to go, and we'll get to that scene in a bit. But when they get back, when the Trumps get back, what's it like? Well, they're going to talk about, here, they're in the film, they're trying to solve the problem together. Okay, what if we went to a shelter? Does the military have a bomb shelter or a base around here? I mean, don't they have to do those? Don't they have to have those things ready for emergencies like these? No, it turns out they don't. Not in the U.S. I don't know where they are. Even if I did, you said all those cars came off the lot. If they did that to every dealership, the main roads are most likely clogged up. We stay here till we know more. One thing I should mention about the cars. I mean, you saw the cars; they're all white. Don't know what the significance of that is, but some sort of white flight maybe is represented, or some sort of the white. I don't know. Speculate in the video comments below. Let me know what you think, because there's a lot of different interpretations you could possibly come up with that. So here are options. All the white cars are going in the same direction. That's something like white flight. Interestingly, they're all going to the city. I don't know what that would signify. Notice that they're also the ones causing all the damage. They're crashing into one another. and so they're the ones causing the problems. There's a lot of different possible ways to unpack the significance of the white cars. I'm not sure what to make of it exactly, so offer your ideas. But how much more do we need to know? People we know are likely dead. We can't sit here and do nothing. Yada, yada, that's too dangerous. And so they're going to do nothing again. Okay? And they want to watch. So here we get a conversation that sort of a bonding moment between Clay and Ruth. So interestingly, Clay representing sort of the Trump side, and Ruth representing the oppressed population, the 96 down in the lower part of the ship, looking like they're making a friendship. Okay. They're going to go out and smoke together, talk together. And similarly, inside G.H. Scott, or Scott, George and Amanda are going to have a conversation. In their conversation, he's going to explain, tell sort of a story about powerful people who know what's going on, and this cabal that is possibly responsible for it. And he says, "Oh no, it can't be that. There is no conspiracy," but it certainly seems to be what they're pointing to. But they're making a friendship, it seems like, and they're going to go eventually and dance together right after this, because he's going to have to win her again. But when he gets to this part where he's going to say what's going on, he turns to me and he says, "Oh, just my annual meeting with the rest of the evil cabal that runs the world." And he was the kind of guy that was always known for jokes like that. Again, if I told you his name, you would understand. And well, I'll just have to take your word for it. And now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna top off my wine. And he grabs her arm. He says, "Then yesterday before the symphony, my friend calls me up, no scheduled appointment like he usually does, just calls me out of the blue. Here we are, and wants me to move around some of his money. And we're talking some big numbers, even for him. And as we're getting off the phone, I asked if he wanted to grab a drink. He tells me he's going away for a while, and I joke back to him, 'Oh yeah, you hanging with your evil cabal this weekend? I thought that was only during the winter solstice.' But he doesn't laugh, and he always laughs even with bad jokes. And all he said was, 'Take care of yourself,' almost as if he felt sorry for me." Okay, so you can see what's going on. Now she's unhappy, and he says, "I'm going to win you over again," and they're going to go dance. Here's Rose, the little Donnie Darko girl. She was still trying to watch the end of Friends. She can't get the last episode. She cares about them. The world's all screwed up, but she cares about, these fictional characters. Okay, well, maybe you shouldn't. And outside, they're talking about what's all going on. And when this is happening, the tanker and leaving the immigrant woman out there on the road, we get flamingos that land in the pool, which is weird. And on the top of that, while they're dancing and talking and giving up hope, he is explaining this is not much hope. That's when we get another noise incident. Okay. And after the noise, we get the conversation about the flood. And we get two conversations in bed. We get their bed, the Trump family bed, the white family bed, and then we're going to get the bed with G.H. Scott and his daughter, Ruth, and what their conversations are. And these conversations are important because they're related to this election again. Okay, and what's going to happen after it. With this election, the return of the Trumps, we get this conversation. What are you still doing up? I keep thinking about this one episode of West Wing, this one West Wing episode. There's this story. Someone tells the president, you watch the West Wing? Only the Aaron Sorkin seasons. Anyway, the story was about a man who lived by the river, and he hears on the radio that the river is going to flood the town and everyone should leave. But the man doesn't go anywhere because he prays every day. He knows that God loves him and will save him. But then the flood actually happens, and this guy in a rowboat sees the man and says, "Hey, come on, I can save you." But the man tells him he isn't going anywhere. And then the helicopter comes flying by, and the pilot lowers the ladder, but the man tells him he isn't going anywhere. After that, the man drowns in the flood. And so he goes up to heaven, and he's really angry at God. And he tells him, I prayed to you every day. I thought you loved me. Why didn't you save me? And God says, I sent you a radio report, a rowboat, and a helicopter. What more do you want? And she says, what's this about, Rose? I think I'm done waiting. And what she means is it is time for her to no longer just hope things get better, but she needs to go to the bunker. And that's where she's going to go. She's going to go off to the bunker. Okay? And because we're near the end. That's the idea. Now, we go to the other bedroom, and Ruth says, Dad, will you sleep in the bed with me? He says, the bed's not that big. I don't mind sleeping on the floor. It's bad for my back sometimes. Good for my back to be on the floor sometimes. And she says, I'm scared. And so he ends up getting in there. He says, what do you mean by that? What I mean is, if the crap goes down, do you trust these people that are in our house? If things get bad, do you really trust the Trumps? We already know the wife has no chill. The boy was sneaking pictures of me by the pool. That little girl keeps staring into the woods like Donnie Darko. See, there's the Donnie Darko reference with the girl. And I'm pretty sure the husband wants to, be with me. How do you know that? Well, he's not actually going to do anything. He's not that guy. But did he want to? Absolutely. My point is, I don't trust them. I'm not going to let anything happen to you, he said, if that's what you're asking. I'm asking for you to remember that if the world falls apart, trust should not be doled out easily to anyone, especially white people. Even Mom would agree with me on that. I got it. Do you? Because we're sleeping in the basement of our own house. We're not running the show right now. For the second night in a row. Twice now to these Trumps. Just what exactly was the point of letting them back into the house? Okay, so here we get this, what exactly is the point of letting them back into the house? Well, in a sense, we already got the answer to that question earlier in the film. They need to think everything's going to be all right. You're not going to scare them out. They need to think everything's going to be all right. Things get worse when everything looks like it's going to be all right. And here, he's going to say it's the right thing to do. And then we're going to find out that letting them back in the house is the thing that's going to screw over the country, according to them in the film. Okay? What was the point of letting them back into the house? It was the right thing to do. And that right there, that's what's going to screw us over in the end. And then we go to what? The lunar eclipse scene. See, we're going to see from the perspective of the moon. That's where this camera angle is. Looking up. Okay. And we're going to see the sun on the other side of Earth. And so from the perspective of the Earth, what are you going to see? If you're over here, you're going to look and you see a shadow cast over the moon, which is what a lunar eclipse is. Okay, and there's the lunar eclipse. That next lunar eclipse is March 14th, 2025. That's the Pi Day eclipse. Now, maybe it's an eclipse even later than that. I don't know, but that's what we see here, Pi Day eclipse. There's other predictive program that seems to support Pi Day, because this is the March 14th eclipse in 2025. It's going to be a total lunar eclipse. And we have the Pi strike on Skullduggery, and I picked Goat 2. We have, let's see, I'm good. I don't need to go through all that again. We've done that in a lot of videos. We have in this movie, The Legend of Shang-Chi, or whatever his name was, and the 10 Rings, that one. We have the Pi dice falling, so it goes to the same eclipse sequence that we saw on iPico 2, and then we get to that pi right here. So here's what it looks like in motion. And these are not possible, actually, in a die. 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. That's actually pi 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. Now the sides are 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, and it looks like a 2 and a 4, right? But the way it comes in, you see 1.5 point, and then the 5 roll in at the same time, which is 3.145. But 3, 1, 4, you cannot see that on a die because those are not adjacent sides. Okay, you can't get all 3 on one side. So they did that just to make sure we got a 3.14 die in the video. Okay, so we have the destruction coming with that because see, boom, and then you get 3, 1, 4. So we get a lot of pi predictive programming. Now, when they wake up after that pi event, we see the kid's teeth are falling out, and that could be from the noise or maybe a tick bite, they speculate, and they're going to go get help for him. And we're going to see them do the right thing again, which is, I say the right thing, he's going to go to help his boy, and George is going to help him. And that's going to be in the last one, the final part of the film. Now, maybe I'll stop here. I could keep going, but I think, let's save that for the next video, our next part, and hopefully do that soon rather than waiting a long time because it's important. Because this is what we're going to see happening next, right? This is what comes with the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, I think, and afterwards. Because now we're in the Trumps have returned to the White House phase. I mean, the election happened. Then they're going to come back in January, the inauguration, if nothing unexpected happens between now and then shortly after that, you're in the March 2025 with the eclipse, and then I think the predictive programming, what it's pointing to, is here. Okay, and that's where you get the division of the country and a number of other things, and finally the destruction of the country. Not necessarily immediately, but that's the phase we're in. Okay, so that's what I have so far. Like, subscribe, share, and take care. Blessings.